Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now today's first story comes from Sports Obsessed BF, who says, my 24 female boyfriend 24 male is obsessed and superstitious with sports to the point where it interferes with his life severely. I'm also a sports fan, but I think he is out of control. My relationships, I realize that this problem may seem minor and insignificant, but it's really affecting my relationship with my boyfriend. I'm posting this with a throwaway because people I know in real life know my Reddit handle. Excuse any typos please, on mobile. I 24 female have been dating my boyfriend 24 male for 17 months, and we've lived together for 5 months. He's a wonderful guy and he treats me great and doesn't have a mean bone in his body. We get along with each other's friends and families, and we have the same sense of humor and common goals and beliefs. I know we are young and I don't want to rush, but I love him and can really see a future with him. There is just one problem that I feel is getting in the way. It may seem like such a stupid and insignificant problem because he doesn't hit me or cheat on me or use drugs or alcohol to excess, but it's really affecting our relationship. My boyfriend is obsessed with sports and is really superstitious when it comes to his teams. We live in Massachusetts and he is obsessed with the Red Sox, the Bruins and the Celtics, the Patriots and the Revolution. I like sports as well, but he takes it to a whole different level. He gets superstitious and has routines and things he does because he believes it will help his team win. Some examples. Earlier this season, the Red Sox went on a winning streak. The day they won their first game, he had a day off work and he'd fallen asleep on the couch the night before, still wearing his socks. So for the entire winning streak, he refused to take off or change his socks. He was washing his hair and body in the bathroom sink and wearing clean clothes, but he wouldn't change his socks or wash his feet. This went on for days and it was gross and his feet smelled so bad, and he admitted he could smell them too, but he didn't care because he said it helped the team win. When the NFL season started this year, my boyfriend's car was in the shop, so when he went to work the day before opening day, he walked to work and then took the bus home at the end of the day. This happened for the first 2 games of the season, and the Patriots won every game, and he was convinced that this ritual was helping the team. He kept this up for the first 10 games of the season, even after he got his car back. He didn't care what the weather was and even made the trip on days he wasn't working, even though it was 30 to 4 minutes each way without a car. 2 mutual friends of ours got married on November 28th of last year, and he couldn't make the trip because we had to go out of town for the wedding. He was actually thinking of skipping the wedding, but because I talked sense into him, he went, although he was tense the whole time. The next day, the Patriots lost their first game of the season after winning 10 games in a row. He was pissed off and still blames me for it. And by blame me, he just says it's my fault. He doesn't do stuff like yell at me or refuse to spend time with me, just for clarity. He is not abusive. He has certain rituals for game days. He will only eat certain foods or drink his coffee a certain way or go to a certain coffee shop or gas station. For the last Bruins season, he went and got coffee every morning, even if he didn't want coffee. He has certain brands of shampoo depending on what sports season or playoff it is. He will change his hairstyle or not shave it if it is the playoffs, or he will only sit in a certain seat in the living room during the game. When we moved in together, I moved in with him because my lease was up, but he still had 6 months left on his. The plan was that after 6 months, we could find a bigger place. I have almost a new living room set with a couch, love seat and 2 recliners. His living room furniture is ripped and on the verge of breaking. He insisted on keeping his because he doesn't know the temperament of my furniture when it comes to the teams. Seriously, I am not trying to be snobby because mine is newer, but his is being held together with pieces of wood and duct tape and has holes in it. I know compromise is important, and at the time it wasn't the hill I wanted to die on, and so I agreed to keep his furniture and give mine to my parents because they were looking for replacements. But now in the big picture, I see why it was a problem. Another example is our wedding. We aren't planning on being engaged or married yet, but we have talked about the future. He said that if we ever get married and engaged, the proposal and wedding would have to be on the days when none of his teams are playing because he doesn't want the wedding to influence a game or winning streak or something, because we can't have a wedding every day for the team to win. So far, he thinks July or August because 3 of the 5 teams, Bruins, Patriots and Celtics, are on the off season, and there will probably be a day when the Red Sox and Revolution aren't playing. He can't guarantee it will be a Saturday though. I'm not saying anything for now because we aren't at the wedding or engagement stage, but it bothers me that he is so serious about this that it will affect our wedding. If we did get married and it was a game day, I wouldn't even mind getting married sometime before the game was on, then have the TV with the game and our reception. As I said, I'm a sports fan also, and I like the same teams he does. I enjoy watching sports, but I think he takes it too far. These are just some examples, and there are many others. I've tried talking about this, and he is saying I don't understand how important all this is. As I said, he doesn't pick fights with me or yell or mope or anything, and he doesn't get emotionally or physically abusive. His family members are also sports fans also, and they say he has always been like this, although they don't take it as far as him, and they thought he was being dumb with the walking to work so the Patriots would win. I convinced him to talk to a therapist about these compulsions, and that included couples therapy where we could talk. And he agreed to go, but the therapist said he didn't have a problem and was normal. And yes, he was honest in therapy, at least when I was there. I wanted a second opinion, so I picked the therapist and the same thing happened. So now he is convinced that he doesn't have a problem and I just don't understand. Like I said, he's wonderful in every other way. He's a good person, he isn't a snob to anyone, and he treats me well and doesn't cheat or be abusive. He spends time with me and is attentive. And even when we debate about his sports obsession, he doesn't yell or get mean. I love him very much and I can see a future for us. I enjoy watching games with him, but his obsession and superstition with sports has given me second thoughts because while I like sports, my life doesn't revolve around them. Since 2 therapists said he is normal and not mentally ill or anything, he is convinced this is fine. We are due to move into a bigger place in a month, and while we haven't signed the lease yet, I'm not sure I want to do it without addressing this, but I don't know what else to do to make him listen. Am I being irrational and not understanding, or am I right to be concerned about this and thinking of ending it? If anyone has any advice or thoughts, I would appreciate them. Thank you in advance for reading. Now, I'm very interested to know what the comments are going to say on this one. A fair amount of the time, they're pretty spot on with what they say. This had me seriously side-eyeing those therapists that said this was completely normal. Certainly doesn't feel that way to me. But Lane Rider said this is OCD. I have it, and I do some extremely simple, more hygienic routines. This dude sounds like he needs an intervention and needs to get help. Blames you for losing a game because of a friend's wedding. What the hell? Get him help now. Another commenter says, I don't understand how 2 therapists cleared this. It's some hallmark OCD. It's clearly affecting his life and his romantic relationship, breaking from the patterns causing distress. The behaviors are not rational, which he acknowledges to some degree. OP, did you go to couples counseling for a length of time? How was this missed? Thumb of Justice says, maybe see a psychiatrist instead of a therapist. I'm appalled that 2 therapists said it was okay for him to not change his socks, etc. And getting rid of your nice furniture because he doesn't know its temperament is so irrational. OP, are you interested in having children? I can only imagine what being pregnant with this guy would look like. God forbid you go into labor on any game day. What will a child's sports temperament be? I don't know how you can handle this. It will be a deal breaker for me. Seriously, the socks would have just flat out killed the relationship off. And one more comment which says, I came into this post thinking he probably just watches too many sports and it's interfering with their relationship. Well, I was super wrong about that one. Like other posters, I agree that this is OCD. I mean, it's one thing to wear a jersey when the Penguins are playing. It's another entirely to plan your wedding around sports seasons and wear the same socks for weeks. The bottom line here is that we on Reddit can't help him and that you can't help him. He needs medication and cognitive behavior therapy to get this shit under control. Start by seeing a psychiatrist. These people can prescribe medication, which psychologists can't. So OP comes back into the post a year later and says, my first post can be found here, and shared the link and says, firstly, I would like to thank everyone who posted supportive and kind comments. I'm sorry I didn't answer them all. I'd posted with a throwaway and some stuff had happened. I'll explain below, and I'd forgotten I posted for a while. Now things have kind of evened out, I wanted to give an update for everyone who was supportive. He is my ex-boyfriend. I read all of the posts and a few days later I decided to talk to him again. It didn't go well at first and that should have been a sign. There was a Red Sox game on when we were both home from work and they lost, and he was upset with me for talking to him and not letting him focus on the game and interrupting the things he had to do. He was convinced they lost because of that and we had a huge fight. I should have ended it there, but I didn't. The next day we were both off work and he got me roses and cooked me lunch and there was candlelight and music and he asked me to dance with him there in the living room. He apologized and promised he would do better. He acknowledged it wasn't fair to me and said he wanted to get help and see another therapist. He talked about the future and us having a life, and I stupidly listened. He didn't make an appointment with a therapist. He talked with me about his feelings and how I was feeling. He said he agreed that we would get new furniture for our new place. I tried to give him some space regarding his habits because he was committed to seeing the therapist and changing, and I didn't want to push him, and him ended up saying forget it. He was much more attentive though. I thought he changed, but I was wrong. A week or so after we had fought and made up, and he made the therapist appointment, something else happened that turned my life upside down. I had a mole on one of my arms, but I never thought anything of it. I had a new co-worker and she pulled me aside one day and said she didn't want to scare me or be weird, but she is a 2-time skin cancer survivor and the mole did not look good. She stressed that I needed to see a doctor. I wasn't going to and I was non-committal and she begged me to go. It turns out she was right and she saved my life. I made the appointment thinking the doctor would look and it would be no big deal. I had that mole for a while and never paid much attention to it. It was melanoma. I had to have surgery to remove the mole as well as check the lymph nodes to see if it had spread. The surgery was scheduled for a day my idiot ex-boyfriend had tickets to a Bruins preseason game. He asked me to postpone the surgery because he couldn't skip the game as it would affect the team. He was actually being serious. He went so far as to call my doctor and tell him I wanted to postpone the surgery and he was calling on my behalf. He said if I went through with the surgery, he couldn't be there for me and I needed to understand because the team needs him. Then he actually fucking told me that I could not sit in his recliner the day I was scheduled to come home from hospital because the Pats were playing and he needed to sit there for game day. I would have to take the broken couch. I am dead serious. I broke up with him. I called a friend who had a truck and we packed all my stuff and she agreed that I could crash in her spare room for as long as I needed. It was the last month on his lease and I paid the landlord the last month of rent because even though I wasn't on the lease, I didn't want him to be able to say I left him high and dry. I cut all contact with him and blocked his phone number and email address. It was on the 18-month anniversary of the day we met / had our first date and the 6-month anniversary of the day we moved in together. I thank God / the universe / whoever that I didn't sign the lease for a new place. We had planned to move in together with him or combine my money with him. I had the surgery. It got so lucky. It was stage 2 and had not hit the lymph nodes yet. I had to stay in the hospital for a couple of days, but the wound was looking okay and not infected, so I was discharged to go home. The waiting was agony and the worst thing. I also was not in the best emotional state because of what happened with my ex. I cried when I found out it wasn't in my lymph nodes yet. The doctor said it would have hit them and spread in under a year, and I would have been much worse off. So now I am hyper aware of the sun. I go for skin checks every few months and have a nasty scar, but it could have been so bad. That co-worker saved my life and we are friends now. Yesterday was the 1-year anniversary of my surgery. I had so much support from my friends, family and co-workers. I will never forget it. Once I recovered and went back to work, I got a small promotion. I started night school for college last month, while I work full-time during the day. I've taken up rock climbing and last month I started night school. It will really help my career and I'm excited about it. I'm single since I broke up with my ex, but on Monday I had an impromptu date at the juice bar with a guy I bumped into at the gym. It felt good to be social again and he seemed nice. That's my update. I wanted to thank everyone again. I haven't seen or talked to my ex since I broke up with him and left. I did hear through the grapevine that he stayed in his place when the power went out and there was no heat for more than one day when the temps were below freezing and there was a blizzard because he wanted to sleep in his bed and sit in his chair to help his teams. He apparently had to be taken to hospital for exposure because it was so damn cold. He If he doesn't want to change, that's his problem and not mine now. Thanks everyone, relationships. And I can't blame OP for checking out of that situation. I think OP is right that if he doesn't want to change, then it is going to be his problem and not OP's. And him calling the doctor to cancel her appointment was just, that's awful. But regardless of the behavior, as I said, I'm glad that OP's out of that situation. I hope that one day he does find some help, because that does sound really extremely unhealthy and sounds like it could escalate even further. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. And our next story is from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit. It doesn't have an update as yet, but it's from Beginning Jaguars 9693 and says, Am I the arsehole for refusing to share my huge inheritance with my step siblings? So I, 17 male, found out only a few weeks ago that my dad left me a lot of money in a trust. Like, it's such a crazy amount that I didn't really believe it at first, but it's true. The reason is my dad had inherited from both his parents already. He also inherited from the only 2 uncles he had as well, and one of them was very successful and had a business. This was all explained in a letter my dad wrote to me. He had the trust set up before he came into most of the money, but when he found out his cancer was incurable, he decided to put it all aside for me once all his medical bills were paid off for him. My parents were separated but not legally divorced when my dad was sick/died, but they weren't living together for a couple of years. This was 10 years ago. My mum found out about the money because she read the letter he sent me about the issue. Then she insisted she was joining me to meet with a lawyer to discuss this. When my mum learned about the money, she told her husband, and suddenly the money became a very touchy subject. I can't touch it until I'm 19 with the way my dad set it up. I have some time to deal with this, but my mum and her husband want me to share the money with my step siblings, 14, 8, and 7. The money is enough where even if I pay for college and buy a house, I would have money left. The way the trust works, I was told, it's also getting interest, which my dad had intentionally set up. My mum and her husband have struggled financially for years. They started dating when his youngest kid was 1. His wife had died. He was going through a legal battle with the mother of his oldest, and his oldest is in therapy for trauma caused by their mum. Also, his youngest was born with some medical issues and has a lot of doctor appointments. Between everything, money was tight. We lived paycheck to paycheck, and I worked to make my own life a little more comfortable. But we had no college savings or anything before this. My mum and her husband drained their own bank account to keep a roof over our heads. This has all been brought up to me as a good reason why I should do this. My mum told me it was selfish for dad to put it all away solely for my future, and he should have been thinking about raising me as well. She told me I might not call her husband dad or his kids my siblings, but we are a family, and that this family has been through so much together and we struggled for so long, that it would be so good and generous for me to do this. I told her it's not like I can access the money now. She said no, but when I do, I should set up accounts for my 3 step siblings so they have a better chance at college, and if not college, the chance to have a help start in life. Despite all their trying to talk me into it, I said no. I told them that I wasn't going to share the money. My mum was so mad, but it was nothing compared to how mad her husband was. They told me to quit being selfish and start acting with compassion. Am I the arsehole? And we'll start with Cronkless Order, who says not the arsehole, but get the hell out of that house. Is there a sibling of your dad's you can move in with? Invest every cent of that money though. Talk to a financial advisor. Also make sure to keep your birth certificate, driver's license, and any other IDs and documents where they can't hold them over your head. Opie says no. My dad was an only child and I'm the last person in that family. At least that I know of. No other family he had. Iron Beagle says not the arsehole. So your mum's new husband is mad you aren't giving money to his children with your mother. This money came from your father. That was not their father's, it was yours. This is whom your father wanted the money to go to. Explain to your mother that if they're going to punish you for doing exactly what your dead father wanted, they can go fly a kite. Mum should also ask her new husband to stay out of it. He isn't your father. Opie says his children with his late wife and his ex-wife. None of his kids are my mum's kids. And one more comment from Gypsy Bug who says what they're asking isn't compassion. It's displacing the financial burden of raising his children onto you. If you have no emotional drive to share, then please do not do it. Your mother is responsible for the costs of raising you, full stop. You don't owe her for her choice to have and raise a child. She has made decisions that got her and her husband where she is. It is not your job to mitigate her life. Your dad was smart. He made sure your mother could not ruin your future. He guaranteed safety for you. Now take advantage of his forethought and thrive, not the arsehole. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? What would you do if you was OP? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being involved, truly. And I will see you in the next one. Take care and much love.
Yeah, man, I remember being so naive when life was good, weather and palm trees. Back in the day, you were everything I need. But then along came a time when you crushed my dreams. Oh yeah, you played me like a fool when you made me believe that the line between love wasn't thick enough to read. Oh yeah, you see we in despair, crime everywhere. You're selling false hope cause you just don't care. Nah, you just don't care. Nah, you just don't care. You just don't. Still selling false hope cause you just don't care. House, feel. If we talking to a uniform, who the real? You know we in